as retailers rethink their business model. One movement that we see growing is in fast fashion now, retailers selling secondhand apparel. So to your point of this duplication, redundancy, from a supply chain perspective, I can understand why retailers are doing this, because the supply chain of apparel, fast fashion, is very wasteful. There are many issues associated with slave labor, destruction of our planet, and so on and so forth. So it makes sense from a sustainability aspect to focus on secondhand goods, secondhand apparel. For the United States specifically, another reason is that the supply chains are very long, and because of that, it introduces a lot of uncertainty in the supply chain, and that contributes to waste.
Sure.
So now you no longer have the long lead times because the products are here, right? They're just secondhand. You have been following this. You have worked with these brands that are now shifting to secondhand model. What are your thoughts on this move? And I am very curious to understand from the point of view of engagement with the consumer. There is a shift in consumer preferences, in consumer tastes, but also how are the brands engaging with consumers even to promote this shift?
Sure. Well, the Walmart Twitch news I thought was, Twitch, the Walmart ThredUp, and talking about Twitch all day.
Yes.
ThredUp news I thought was fascinating, right? So Walmart probably is trailing Amazon in terms of being a marketplace. So how can Walmart think about its core customer and what kinds of things do they need? We talked a little bit about this last week. ThredUp makes complete sense, right? Because hey, I'd like to have some nicer maybe items and some things, but I might not be a consumer that can afford those things, or maybe I'm just frugal and I would never pay that much. But yeah, on a resale or consignment, that makes sense. I would do that. And if you think about what ThredUp is doing, is really taking resale and making it a larger, instead of a localized, kind of mom and pop operation, or even a franchise. It's becoming a much larger kind of operation empowered by e-commerce and supply chain. So makes total sense, I think, that Walmart would say, hey, we want to be part of that, because one, this is something that appeals to our customer. It helps us expand our marketplace, our marketplace offerings. Another reason for me to go to Walmart as a shopper, and I think it helps expand kind of on that idea of what is the definition of a retailer, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just a place where I go and get stuff, but it is now an entity where I transact stuff and it handles stuff from a logistical standpoint for me.
And from the point of view of engagement with the consumer, does the company need to relearn how to do that, and even learn how to work with companies like yours, sure, and other content generators and companies that analyze data to change the way that they engage with the consumer?
I think they do, and I think what you see and you really think about is what makes Walmart special in terms of its offering versus Amazon's. And it's still that store, right? It's still the fact that I have a physical location. It's probably in my community. I've got a touch point, a connection point. If I need to do returns, if I just want to go and shop in person, I can do that. But it's people make that very special. If you think Walmart globally has, 2.5 million employees, they personally know those local marketplaces better than anybody in Bentonville, right? Anybody at a corporate level. And I think it's a big competitive advantage for Walmart over Amazon in the long run, right? You know, Amazon is making some inroads with Whole Foods, and I would imagine will probably buy somebody else because I think they realize that local physical presence is important. But you bring up a good point. How can I begin connecting? I saw a wonderful video that a Walmart uh, uh, store assistant manager had made locally about all the things that he and his team members were doing to sanitize their store to make the shopping environment safe. And he published this on his LinkedIn. And I'm like, this is brilliant, right? This is brilliant. This is exactly what shoppers need right now. You just said, I'm not going to a store. I'm not going, you know, not going to a restaurant, right? Because you don't feel comfortable, probably. I mean, you're allowed to, right? These places are open. But if shoppers don't feel comfortable right now, they're not going to go into those environments, right? And what an opportunity to communicate, you're right, very differently, to engage. Who do I feel more comfortable with? Walmart corporately telling me all its processes and how it's keeping me safe, or my local store employees creating some content about the things that they're doing at my store to keep people safe. And oh, by the way, communicating changes in hours, changes in procedures, just what we were sharing with Apple. You know, here's the things we're doing in spacing. Here's what to expect when you come to our store. Whatever. I just think it's such an opportunity to embrace that community created content in a way that does help engage and help be engaged with a real person. You know, that it is just a new way of thinking about decentralized marketing.
Interesting point. I think that there is a common thread among the three topics that we touched upon today: the Facebook boycott, the mall staples in the mall, and the secondhand fashion goods, which is, on one hand, how you act locally, and even what is the role of these, let's say, hubs or places that allow people to engage with each other. It may be for socializing, it may be for purchases, whatever, right? So local centers, local hubs that allow for social interactions, as contrasted to the social interactions that we have online. It may be either brands using big platforms to reach out to large audiences, to promote their initiatives, or even to leverage their own capabilities, perhaps to change the way that these platforms behave. So acting locally compared to acting through these platforms. Very interesting,
I love that.
right?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on with the things that are going on and how we will change. I think we will value personal interaction more as we have less of it, if that makes sense.
And that's something that we need right now.
We do, but you know, personal interaction is a little tough right now. I don't really want to interact with people who are outside of my quarantine, so to speak. You know, we have a group of friends, I think, like most people do, that we trust and we know, and that's pretty much it. You know, but those interactions are super special right now, and they're so much more meaningful. And it really gives you some ideas of how we could, you know, maybe a little of what the future may look like as you think about our connections in our digital world versus our personal world. So it's a super interesting time.
It definitely is. Well, thanks a lot, John. It was great connecting with you again.
Good to connect with you. Thanks, Anibal.
Thanks.